The Yakuza series has a long history of releases going back to the PS2 in 2005. Since then, the series has had multiple mainline releases and spin-offs. This video will look at Yakuza 0, which released between 5 and 6, which also launched around Kiwami 1 and 2, which are remakes of the first and second games in the story. These are all modern games which launched during the PS4 Xbox One generation, which makes them hold up rather well compared to 3, 4, and 5, which are all just remasters of their original releases. The good thing about Yakuza 0 is that it gives players a new starting point into the story, which introduces key characters that will be pivotal carrying into following games. We'll talk a little story, but focus on gameplay, so don't worry about spoilers. Before we jump into Yakuza 0, please leave the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks. The game actually has two main protagonists. Kazuma Kiryu, as everyone knows, is the main character and the focus of the following games, but the second main character is someone who is basically a foil to Kiryu, and that's Goro Majima. They have quite a few run-ins with each other and fight time to time, but are mostly friendly in the mainline games. But in Yakuza 0, they haven't met yet, and Majima specifically doesn't have signature traits that he's typically known for yet. We'll talk story, just about the first few story moments for each character to see if any of it entices you to check it out yourself. If you want no spoilers at all, skip ahead by checking the video chapters. You begin the game as Kiryu, currently a low-ranking Yakuza in the Dojima family. The Dojima family is a subsidiary of the Tojo clan, which has multiple families underneath it, including the Shimano family, which is important to Majima's story. Kiryu does the collections job and leaves the poor soul broken and bloody in an empty lot after getting the money. He reports to the three family lieutenants and they give him shit since the person Kiryu robbed was killed and they suspect that he did it. This is a big deal mainly because the empty lot they found the dude in is a big target for the Dojima family right now, which would allow them to expand their business, and now that there's a crime scene, police will be sniffing around and delaying their plans. Kiryu realizes he's been framed and gets help from an outside real estate company that has similar interests. Majima's story begins with him being in charge of the Grand, a large cabaret club which the Shimano family put him in charge of as punishment for a failed job. Majima is doing this job as a means to get back into the family. One of the customers of the Grand is actually someone tasked with keeping an eye on him, Sagawa. Sagawa tells Majima that he can be back into the family if he carries out a hit for him. Majima struggles with killing, and this is actually the reason he was kicked out of the family in the first place, but he accepts the job anyways. He goes to a massage parlor where his target works, one Makoto Makimura. Getting there, he sees pictures of Makoto plastered all over the walls, but he's nowhere in sight. A blind woman enters, being a masseuse that works under Makoto. Majima plays off as being a customer until the man himself shows up. The two convince the woman to leave so they can fight, only for more men to show up afterwards, both assuming they belong to the other person. Turns out the blind woman is Makoto, and not this dude, who's been passing off as Makoto to keep her safe. Majima then wrestles with a decision to kill the blind woman and get back into the clan, which is all he wants, but it means killing this seemingly innocent blind woman to do so. The game is rather long, longer than a few of the earlier Yakuza games. You'll also be jumping back and forth between Kiryu and Majima every couple chapters. As well, each character has their own money, upgrades, fighting styles, and even maps that stay with that character. The most notable of these are the fighting styles, each having three, one middle of the road, one speed-based, and one power-based. Kiryu's brawler style is the one I stuck with the most when playing, mainly because Rush and Beast had different drawbacks that made me not like them as much. Rush wasn't doing enough damage or stunning bosses enough for me to rely on, and Beast attacks are just way too slow, leaving wide open windows for me to get hit. For Majima, I stuck with Breaker. His breakdancing allowed me to attack quickly and break enemies' guard. Plus, the different combos can lend well to specifically breaking their guard or just crowd control, allowing you to hit multiple enemies at the same time. Slugger was a neat idea since it harkens back to him hanging out in batting cages, as we'll see in later games, but the damage it does is shockingly low for having a weapon involved. And his thug style was fine, I just found it kind of boring to use. Everyone likes different styles for different reasons. You may choose to stick with one like I did, or bounce around depending on the situation. You'll only know when you try them out. The upgrades are done very weird in this game. For some reason, you unlock skills and upgrades using money. There is no traditional experience system. This also means that doing jobs, missions, side quests, etc. give you an influx of cash, since you'll need it to get upgrades as well as have enough money to buy gear and healing items. This is a poor system because all of Kiryu or Majima's upgrades are in one of these three trees, including ones that are unrelated to the fighting style. Upgrading your max health or anything to do with your heat bar are just scattered throughout the various trees. I mentioned the heat bar, and this is your specials meter that can be activated by hitting triangle at specific times. Usually when an enemy is stunned, downed, or grabbed, hitting triangle will allow Kiryu or Majima to perform a hard-hitting attack that will use some of the gauge, but also take a chunk of health away from your opponent. Heat gets more important the more you play. Bosses later in the game will have multiple health bars that will take quite a while to take them down. As you whittle their health down, they will hit you harder and stun you much easier, which makes heat the key way to burst them down. One more thing about bosses, there's one boss in the game that you fight literally 4 times, which is pretty ridiculous to me. I talked a bit about healing, but with this influx of health bars, having a good supply of healing items in your inventory is a good idea. Mr. Shakedown is an aspect of the game I didn't really like. He's a large man you will occasionally come across while walking around. He's pretty tough to take down and will steal money from you every time he smacks you. Managing to beat him will grant your money back as well as a bounty, which is said to be a sum of cash that he's taken from others. Self-explanatory as to why I don't like this mechanic, and something that thankfully doesn't return in any of the following games. Another big part of the Yakuza games that I must at least mention are the sub-stories, or the side quests. The main story and the characters of these games are taken pretty seriously that tend to cover some pretty serious themes. But the sub-stories are the opposite. They tend to be quite silly and unserious. They all vary greatly on how involved they are. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes and just has you talking to an NPC for a short time, while others may have you fighting or even sending you somewhere else. These are worth checking out if their initial conversation gets you interested, but this is something I have a problem with. Not all games do this going forward, but passing by to go to a main mission, you'll get thrusted into a conversation which makes Kiryu or Majima involved, meaning you are pulled into a non-skippable scene where you are currently planning on doing something else, which tended to sour my first impression and make me not want to engage with it. But the few that I did play through were good, and I would say not to have my same frame of mind if you can help it. I do think this game's story is very strong. There isn't much crossover between Kiryu and Majima, but elements of their stories do. Things that happen in one can answer questions regarding what happens in the other. This alone makes this probably my favorite story of the games that I've played so far, and I just began 7. The game is great and definitely worth checking out. There's a director's cut that the Switch 2 has timed exclusivity on, and it does change a few things, but base Yakuza 0 you can get basically anywhere. This is a good template on what to expect for following games when it comes to combat, exploration, side content, story, and more. Meanwhile, the systems between the games bounces around a little bit. It's safe to say that if you end up not liking this game, you may not like the games to follow. Just a heads up. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave the video a like, and subscribing to the channel really helps me out a lot. Thanks. Check out my socials in the description. I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe.